boards. Welcome back, guys. It's not another FPL podcast. We are recording live during the Leicester Leeds game. We're trying to get it out as quick as possible. We've got a special guest with us today, FPL Redfords.
Welcome, Brad.
How are we doing, guys? Thank you for having me.
Lovely to have you on board. Brad, just to give you a bit of context, was the winner of our mini league last year. And what was your overall best rank, Brad?
Yeah, that was actually last year, and it was 17k.
Very nice.
Yeah, very, very happy with.
Top that. That's lovely, lovely work. So welcome, Brad, better known as FPL Redford on Twitter. Definitely hit him up. Good guy, and sometimes good FPL knowledge. So
definitely not this season, boys. Definitely not this season.
Well, why don't you kick us off then, Brad? How are you getting on so far in what is a very turbulent game week?
Yeah, this game week has been a struggle, a lot like my season. So this season, I'm actually currently set at 1.38 million, which is pretty far away from where I was last year. This game week, though, I am sat on 23 points, which I don't know. I think is okay in the grand scheme of things. I've been pretty lucky. I've still got a few eggs to come. Barnes obviously just kicked off, and Son. If those two do well, I think it could be an all right game week for myself.
Yeah, I think you're right there. Nice that you got Sonny as your vice. And yeah, now you've definitely got a few players there, mate, to hold in. What a nice shout that is. 8 points sat there. And Martinez obviously delivering that usual 10 drop. No surprise there. I've kind of stepped in there, mate. And I'll probably take on my beloved game week. So I am currently on a net 0. Now, yeah, I don't want there to be too much silence. It's not the end of the world. Well, it is the end of the world, but no. So the strange thing is, guys, I actually love my team. Now, I'm not making another transfer this week. But yeah, Sterling captain, Cancelo vice has absolutely done me. Didn't expect 2 to be benched, let alone 3. But yeah, hindsight is a wonderful thing. But I will be lucky to get anything near 20 points this week. I'm looking for Salah to get something against West Ham. Not many people actually have him in the mini league, surprisingly. But yeah, guys, it's actually the worst game week in probably my history of playing the game. And
anyway, let's not concentrate on being negative too much, because it is a disastrous game.
No, that's the thing. I love my team. I love my team. On paper, it's fantastic, and I'm not going to make a move next week. And I'm looking forward to the next 3 game weeks. So
who could have thought, mate, that Cancelo, Stones wouldn't play and Sterling not play? I mean, if you look at that, we said on the last pod that we did fancy the clean sheet again. So that obviously come in, just the players didn't start. No doubt Sterling would have done something. Obviously, Palace keep a clean sheet, but Mitchell's lost his place, so you're so unfortunate there. Like, you can't call that because he's been looking top notch.
It's true.
And he's been keeping Van Aanholt out of the side. My game week's not gone any better. Played my wild card up to a massive 15 points. I've got Jay playing in this one, Justin, so hoping he can do something. I've heard the early rumour mills that Mane's picked up a slight knock and he's now injured. Apparently, this has all come about because someone on Twitter has looked at Andy Robertson's FPL team, and Andy Robbo has transferred out Mane this game week. And the last time he'd done that was earlier in the season, and Mane was benched. So inside trader knowledge, just like the stock market at the moment, which is a nightmare, FPL
mental
has absorbed some of that. So not very good from me. 15 points on the wild card, never been better. Generally can't wait to keep playing this game. And let's move on.
Yeah,
I think Mane's a tough one, mate. I've got the Mane and Salah flip wrong all season. I had Mane up until game week 14, swapped him out, put Salah in, and now since then Mane has outscored Salah. So yeah, it's the coin toss, right?
The FPL gods are literally pulling at our strings, and it was odd because I said that the word of the week was going to be resilience, and that definitely carried over to the weekend, and is rather fitting. Might even go to church soon.
Well, that's where I'm going to be. But I think, yeah, moving forward, straight away from obviously looking up that awful game week. How are we looking then for the next few? Now, I think me and Brad have just briefly spoke before the pod that we're looking to wild card in 25. So that gives us 3
Yeah.
game weeks to really nail down some differentials and get some spice in our teams, because playing by the book and playing the obvious captain just isn't doing it for me. I don't know about you, mate, but
Just a quick question.
what's your
why,
thoughts?
why are you thinking about wildcarding in 25? What's done that for you?
Due to the fact there should be quite a tasty double game week in 26.
So
Now,
on screen now is we can't take any credit for this. This is Ben Crellin, who is a master at predicting
he's
The one and only.
genius, yeah.
This is a really, really good model, and as you can see, if you did wildcard in 25, I guess you're setting yourself up for what looks like a lot of games for the
Yeah, bench boost, I think, or
So, go on then,
triple
talk it through it then. Let's have a conversation. Who would you be getting in? Because I've just played my wild cards, and other players who don't have a wild card might need to save up some transfers or make their moves a little earlier. For you guys then, Brad, did you say you were looking at wild carding around that time as well?
Yeah, absolutely. I think for me, I'm at the point in the season where things need to change. I've made some steady progress in making gains, but for the mini league position, it's just not on for me. My overall rank's not on. So for me, I'm going to take some gambles between 22, 23, 24, wildcard 25, and then between 25 and 29, we'll try and make some gains. And if I don't, then probably a season over, and I'm just going to have to see what I can do to try and get some points. But
nice strategy then. So you guys then, let's talk about it. Which players are you looking to get in on your wild card for that game week then?
To be honest with you, I've been trying to think of who are the whipping boys at the moment, and it's quite hard. I actually personally think Leeds are. Now that might sound a bit controversial, but we all thought Newcastle were going to get a spanking at a fully fit Everton. Didn't happen. You know, Sheffield United are obviously now looking more resilient. They've had that big win at Man United and now obviously just 1-0. West Brom, possibly also the whipping boys with Leeds. So
they concede a lot of goals still.
They do. Obviously, yeah, 3 against Fulham. And obviously, yeah, you could say Fulham also conceded. No, it was 2-2, sorry. So, but yeah, no, so I'm just really looking at, so from 22 to 24, nailing down some differentials. I'm probably going to take out a couple of the obvious premiums. Looking to maybe hop on a couple of differential premiums if Vardy's back, the likes of Kane, or even maybe going a bit lower and going with someone with the likes of Grealish and Maddison, you know, to actually probably stick the armband on him. And I'm just looking at them sort of players. It's really hard to look at the 3 game weeks right now, halfway through this game week, but I think it will come a little bit more clearer. But what about you, Brad?
Yeah, for me, I'm not 100% sure about the wildcard team and what I'll be targeting in 26 yet. I think with the 3 games still to go, it's all about planning for those. For me, though, I think Newcastle could still definitely be the whipping boys. They played against an Everton team, which everyone hyped up because all the band was back together again. But actually, they just haven't been very good. They still haven't been very good. And Newcastle took advantage by the one and only Mr. Callum Wilson. We all know what he can do, but you put him against a decent team, right? A City will go annihilate them. A United will annihilate them. I still think Newcastle could be the whipping boys. West Brom can see goals. And then, yeah, absolutely Leeds as well. Leeds are leaky Leeds. I might be proven wrong today. I hope I'm not. I've got Barnes playing now. So I'm hoping that can be a few goals there. But there would be the teams I'd be looking to target and probably looking to attack over the next 3 games before the wild card.
I think Barnes has scored, mate.
Then.
There we go.
Let me just get you some live information on that. It's 1-0.
Yes.
And Harvey Barnes has just scored. So if you want to come on next game week and talk about some of my players when they're live playing, hopefully you can have the same effect and they'll score.
James Maddison assist as well.
And a Maddison assist. Oh. So Harvey Barnes, great shout. The thing is, I chose Zaha over Barnes in my wild cards. Why wouldn't you? But
we spoke about this in the week as well. This in the week, and I said the only thing I'd do different between if I was wildcarding when you were would be attack a Leicester asset. But I get the Zaha appeal.
Well, he hit the crossbar against Wolves. He could have had an assist if Batshuayi wasn't Batshite. And there you go. I mean, it just adds to a wonderful game week. The interesting thing, though, if you look at what could look to be a double game week in 26, there are some teams there with some lovely possible double game weeks, like Tottenham, for example. You'd be wild carding
Massive,
in
yeah.
25, so they'll be playing West Ham, and then they're playing Burnley and either Villa, Fulham, or Southampton. Now, if Harry Kane doesn't feature against Brighton and Mourinho does say he is out and he might be out for a few weeks, do you feel that the right move is to hop on Son? Because I've seen a lot of people change Kane, do a -4 and put Son in. But we do have to remember their great stats that they've been breaking records this Premier League season has been those two assisting each other. So if you take away one assist and the other, they'd be very mediocre. So what's your thought on Spurs assets for that?
For me, Son is still the man. I think we saw it a lot last season where Kane wasn't in the team, and Son is the guy who can just turn it on, skin a man, and put it in top bins. I think you might not be getting your 15 point, 13 point, 12 point hauls, but I still think you're good for 6, 7, 8, 9 points from Son. So I think you've got to have him in your team.
Okay.
Especially with those fixtures.
Do you think then that Spurs will be the same animal then without Kane? Do you think Son will play that central role? Do you think is it Vinicius will play?
I think they actually probably might start Lucas or maybe someone different up top. But I think Son's best is just coming in from the wide and then cutting in. If he plays up top, I'll be surprised, but I think his best attributes is definitely coming in from the wide areas. But yeah, it'd be interesting to see how Spurs do play. It is going to be their first game without Kane, isn't it? And like you said, most of Spurs' goals have come from them, obviously both involved. I think that goal when Højbjerg scored was only their 5th goal of the whole season where one of them hasn't been involved in. So it just goes to show how dependent they are on both of them. And so, yeah, no, I think today's a little bit of an experiment for Spurs. Who knows what Mourinho's going to do?
Dallas has just scored.
Wow.
No. Unreal. I went ailing over Dallas on my wild card in game week 6, and it's continued to sting me every single week.
Well, wow. I've taken Dallas out on the wild cards. Bamford assist as well, guys, just to let you know.
Oh, Lord.
Oh, I subbed him out this week for Barnes, so
we've all done Bamford to DCL. I've taken Dallas out on the wild card. He's been starting every game. It continues, doesn't it?
That's brilliant.
Continues. Game week 21.
I took a -4 for DCL to bring in for Bamford, and yeah.
So
that's just amazing.
This podcast of not another FPL podcast. Don't worry, we are human. we aren't doing a podcast because we claim to be experts. We just like the game. Sometimes
love the game.
Talk about it.
Let's be serious.
Love hate. I definitely. But yeah, it's definitely like you said. We're not experts, but it's just trying to have a little bit of a laugh at ourselves, mainly at all the bad calls
that's my JJ
we have. But yeah,
wiped out as well by
by two players. You owned, right?
2 players I owned on my when I've taken them out, put in him. You've got to laugh sometimes. Anyhow, we're getting so distracted here now because I've literally,
your head's gone. So anyway, right. While you just have your little have a little think amongst yourself there, mate. Again, 22 to 24 then. I'm actually going to put my neck on the line, right? I'm going to go with, I know how bad they are, but what do you guys think about Pereira for West Brom? Now, got another 13 points last night. He's had 9 before that. I think 2 games before. He's West Brom's best player by an absolute country mile. If they're going to stay up, I think it's because of him. Before the 9 drop, he got a 15-point drop. Their games aren't too bad. They've got one easy game. It's a big game against Sheffield United next week. 2 tough games against Spurs and Man United. Then they've got a really good run. That's potentially a wildcard move for me. They're the sort of differentials I'm going to be looking at. He's then got Burnley, Brighton, Newcastle, Palace. They're the sort of moves I'm thinking about, mate, off the top of my head, which I'm going to be looking at for my wild card. So that's just a little bit.
I'll
Just
give
throw
you.
one
I
out
like. To be honest, I like Piera. I think what's really interesting with fantasy football and something that doesn't actually get spoken about enough is you can own the likes of Piera, because if you think that someone like West Brom are going to go on a good run, when a team is not the best team in the league, they only have maybe one or two players that will score the majority of their
Yeah.
assists or goals. So if you can predict the run of fixtures where they are going to maybe win games and pick up points, it's a lot easier than to say
Yeah.
who's going to get the points from that team. Whereas if you look at that, someone like City, which is the complete opposite, I think United are a bit like it as well, where you've actually got about 3, 4, maybe even 5 players that can score goals week in, week out, but you don't know which one's actually going to do it for that team. One week, maybe, Rashford gets his brace. The next week, it's Martial and it's Cavani. Whereas in that West Brom team, Piera, like you say, I think is their main man. And if they stay up, then I think Piera is a good option.
Yeah, 5.6 as
Definitely.
well. 5.6, I
Worth
think,
the
just
fun.
is value, isn't he? And if you are going to get any gains, I think they're the sort of players that will, and yeah, it's just that timing, isn't it? Which is the beauty of the game. But
yeah, every year, right, the promoted teams, they come up with a few good players, right? Go back to last year, you had Pookie, you had Campwell, who were kind of in everyone's team at some point, but it's just about catching it at the right time. And if you get it right, it's huge, because it's typically low ownership, small value. And if you get it wrong, right, you're usually a 5-6 million player. You don't expect much every week, right?
No, exactly.
And if you look
One
at
question,
Rom, look, he's up there with 73 points, and like you say, he's got a lovely run of fixtures.
Yeah, I think question for you boys then, I guess, for the next 3 game weeks, 22, 23, 24, before the wild card, what teams would you be targeting to bring players in from?
I'll kick off one. Just watched the Chelsea game. It's really hard to say, because if you go down on the game difficulty checker, which obviously is loosely based on how they performed against that team last season, yes, we got a hard game against Tottenham coming up, but looking at Sheffield United and Newcastle, I think Callum Hudson-Odoi could be an interesting prospect. I think he's about 0.3% owned. He's around the 5.3 million mark. The only thing is he's playing out of position, and not in a good way, because you want him to play as a striker if he's a mid. He's actually
back,
as a wing back. He's playing in Reece James's position, but today he got an assist. He's hit the post. He could have had another assist and a goal. So I think he's one to keep an eye out on for. See how Chelsea line up against Tottenham. If he starts against Tottenham, I'd back him against Sheffield United and Newcastle. So for me, Callum Hudson-Odoi would be an interesting one. What about you, James?
Yeah, no, that is quite an interesting shout. I'm actually going to probably still go with a player who I did also back last week, and that's Zaha. I think he was quite unlucky not to score this week. He hit the bar. And I still think that run of games, they are the games which Palace seem to do well against. Like we said, we've both said, me and Brad, now that we don't fancy Newcastle or Leeds. And then they've got 3 games there from 24 to 25, 26, Burnley, Brighton and Fulham. I called him last week, obviously at home to Wolves. I thought it was a good game, but he still looked lively. And I think for them 5 games, I don't know if he's worth the captaincy by any means.
Would he be in your wildcard team then?
I don't know if he'd be in my wildcard, but he might be worth a transfer for one of my midfielders. Maybe going into 23 for them 3 games. I just think he's worth a punt for 23 to 25. For 22 to 24. So if I'm wildcard in 25. So I think he's still a good option. In that price bracket, again, 7 million. It's not the end of the world if he just gets you an assist or a couple of goals in that time. And yeah, I can't see. There's the options. I'm struggling for options. I'm not going to lie.
For me, I guess.
Go on, Brad.
Yeah, for me, there's 4 teams which I'm interested in, which are Chelsea, Arsenal, United, and Palace over the next 3 game weeks. I'm probably not going to make a transfer this week, but kind of come 23, probably -4, -8. And I'm thinking of taking out someone like Salah, and depending on the double game weeks of City and potentially 24, could be taking out Sterling to free up a lot of funds. So I'm really on about taking risk here, taking out some of those big boys, but it would allow me to have the likes of a Zaha, as well as a Barnes and maybe a Maddison as well. Or if I'm looking at United, right, maybe even Cavani. He had some good chances yesterday. He looks like he's starting. He should be starting that lineup, in my opinion. Go for a Cho, getting a Rudiger, to start like really doubling up on these teams for these few game weeks. If it all goes tits up, as they say, it's wild card 25 and
I think that's
we start again.
Very risky strategy. I think if it comes off with every risky strategy, then you're massively in the green. I don't know how I feel about that. If it was me personally, I would be more confident in going with the likes of, and we don't speak about him enough, like your Jack Grealish. I think he is the DCL of the midfielders. He just seems to tick along. I mean, he has got a big 21-point score in him, but he does tick along and get his assists and whatnot. If you look at Villa's fixtures there, I think they are a mixture, but I don't think I can call a result at the moment. So at the moment, I've got to almost think, if I can't call the result, I've got to think about the individual player. And I think Jack Grealish is one of those players that, regardless of who they're playing or when they're playing, he tends to be there or thereabouts.
12 points off Salah as well.
The worrying thing, though, he's one yellow card away. I know he's been one yellow card away for Van for a while, right? And when does that? Do you know when that finishes? Because it's got to be soon, right? He can.
I think it is
changed up to 10.
It carries over, doesn't it? Like it doesn't get reset. I mean, you're just on 4 yellow cards. So if he picks up another one whenever, he's going to have a 1-game ban.
I thought it got reset at, like after a certain point in the season. It then goes once it goes up to 10.
Yeah, I think it does. I think
that might be. Yeah, I'm not sure.
Well, someone
not sure.
Comment on our YouTube and hopefully give us some clarity around that, because I'm not.
I thought it was after they played halfway. So after they played 19 games, it then resets. But obviously it's halfway through the season.
Someone give us some clarity around that. I know in the big, like in the Champions League and all that, it resets at certain stages. I'm not too sure about the Prem. One question got asked by at Footy Spotlight, by the way. Big appreciation to your support. Love that on Twitter. And it's a bit of a question now for a lot of teams, is we're in this unfamiliar time where a lot of managers have a ridiculous amount of cash in the bank. Now, this has come about from your premiums, like your KDB, your Vardy, and your Kane getting injured. Now, one thing we were talking about, James, is that sort of, if you have the money in the bank, you feel like you have to spend it. And that's why a lot of people took out KDB and put in Sterling.
That's exactly why I did that.
Gundo and save the money. Now, what's both your takes on that? Do you feel that it's better to have your money spread around, so overall your bench is stronger, and if we're seeing like this week where your bench is coming into play, it might need to be used? Or do you feel that you need to have that money put away for a rainy day, so when KDB does come back, you can easily transfer him in?
Yeah, no, I'll kick off quickly. I think I completely agree with that. And if you just look at the players like Grealish, I mean, he's 12 points below Salah, just 12. And that's, and there's actually like a £5 million swing between them two. And you just have to say, like, obviously the 12 points isn't worth that. And the points per million is a massive thing. And I do think something that I don't like having money in the bank. I think you need to get as much money out on there as possible. But if the premiums aren't playing, up to their normal standard, then it's definitely worth a shout is to forget the money, go with the form, go with the fixtures, and go with your gut more than anything. It's like Wilson as well. He's the third highest point scorer for the forwards. He's 4 points behind Vardy. 6 million. What was he? 6'6". Unbelievable. So I think if everyone was the same price, it'd be completely different. Obviously, hypothetically, it'd be a completely different story. But for me, I think that's definitely something I need to start looking at. It's a great point. And then when you do see that premium coming back, you've always got that money then, haven't you?
Yeah, I agree. What do you think, Brad?
I think having money in the bank, I think it's nice to have a buffer, but I'm talking when I have more than a mil, much more than a mil, I get a kind of itchy feet and I feel like it's wasted. People have got 4, 5, 6 mil at the moment. And I'm like, nah, for me, that's got to spend. You got to spend that, get it in somewhere.
Yeah, I hate it as well.
I'm not saying it has to all go on the premiums. I'm not saying why not get more mid-price players, right? Why not have lots of 7, 8 millions, rather than having a 10 and 11 and 11 in your midfield.
Just to point out to that, Brad, that's what I mean. That's what I think we're talking about is managers do feel uncomfortable with having that money in the bank. But let's just point this out to you. Look, Kane and Vardy, are both injured. Wilson, Bamford, DCL, Watkins. Look at their price bracket. Only DCL is in the 7 millions. If you go up to the midfield, Bruno Fernandes, Son, Salah, you've got Grealish, Mane, Zaha. So what I'm getting at, and then down here you've got Sterling, Souček and De Bruyne, Barnsley. So what I'm getting out here is if and when we've had the KDB injury, why were people going, do you know what, Sterling, when Grealish is there? You could then use that money at the back. Can you get your Diaz in? Can you get your Cresswell in? Because this is the thing. Are we attracted to players because they are at a higher price? It's a bit like
100%.
Living in a materialistic world. You go to a shop, you don't want the plain white tee, you want the one that's got the logo on it, and it charges you 30 quid instead of 3 quid, even though they're the same t-shirt. One's just got a logo on it. So it's a bit like in the FPL world. Are we attracted to a player more because we think that because they're more expensive, they're better, and they should do better? When in reality, you could look at it and go, right, the average in my team can be a lot stronger. And in a season where it's unpredictable and we're getting some random scores, it's better to have a better average than a higher ceiling. Is that the right way to say it, maybe?
Yeah, I think comfortable, right? It's comfort, right? If I go in and I put my premiums in, my premiums blank, everyone's like, oh yeah, the premiums are blank. But if I go in, put a bunch of low value players in, or lower mid to low value players in, I have a bad week, you'll go, well, look at you, you idiot. You've got no premiums, or you haven't spent your team well.
Yeah.
It's kind of that. You're going to balance that.
How have you not gone Son?
Why have you not got the premiums in it? It's that comfort piece, right, as well. You're comfortable when you see those players in your team. When you see Salah in your team, Fernandes in your team, Son, KDB, it's warm, it's comfortable. It's definitely... Whereas actually you're relying on the 6 mils. You go into every week.
It's definitely a factor of FOMO, I think, as well, of what you see on Twitter and what you see people in your mini league having. FOMO, I think, is a massive thing I suffer from. If I see, like the likes of Cancelo, 17 drop, I bring him in straight away. And I do think it's a lot about the captaincy from my perspective is, do I feel comfortable captaining the likes of Gundogan over Sterling? I've previously had a week where Sterling's got me a hat-trick and he's got me 21 points. Couple of weeks before that, Gundogan, I brought him in for the blank. He didn't do anything. So I'm always, you going back on, historical data from your own personal experiences. And I think that is also a factor is, these premiums, they can get some big scores. But like you said, Dom, it's unpredictable. And if it is one of them seasons, then go with your gut. And if he's 6-7 million and you fancy him, put the armband on him.
Well, it's interesting. And the reason I say it as well, because we were just previously talking, and Brad especially, you were mentioning about maybe jumping off the likes of Bruno and Salah. Now, they're both premium assets. Who do you got in mind to replace them?
Someone like a Cho, a Grealish as well. I'd also probably look at another premium asset, just lower owned. Right?
Yeah, that's a good one. So that's what I was thinking with Sterling, though, to be honest with you. Sorry to butt in, but that's the sort of thing I was looking with Sterling. No, carry on.
That's why I brought Sterling as well. Why I captained him this week, right? I was looking at Son as my vice. I was having that battle, but I was like, Sterling's 11-12% owned. That's unreal to have Sterling at that. He could bang. Obviously,
1 in 10.
Pep laughs in our face in the end of it. But for example, as an Arsenal fan, probably I am tempted by Aubameyang. He's missed a few games, but it's not because he's unfit. It's because of personal reasons, right? I look at those fixtures in 23-24, and then that's just...
Why are you attracted to Aubameyang? What, because he's 12 million? I mean, he's been rubbish. He hasn't scored...
Again, I prefer Saka over Aubameyang.
Martinelli's back. Saka's your best player, and now you're attracted to Aubameyang. I don't understand the psyche.
This is exactly what we're talking about, isn't it?
That's what I mean.
Aubameyang's done absolutely nothing all year apart from score a pen against Man United and a goal against Fulham on the first day of the season. Saka's looked absolute class. He's the most consistent player by far. And we're back to Aubameyang, 12 million, who's like 7 million, more than Saka. It's just fascinating, isn't it?
Yeah.
You're back in,
feels weirdly comfortable.
Yeah.
just feels weirdly comfortable, even though it shouldn't, because he's been in bad form. But it's also at the same time, he is a class player. Surely he
Yeah.
can't have a whole season as bad as he has. Well, maybe he can, but I'm just like, I see those fixtures. If he comes back, wants to get those goals in, we're looking like a better team overall. Will
You're
it
back
fit
in.
now?
You're
Right?
back in flannels, mate. Sorry, you're back in flannels, mate. Buying your Stone Island instead of going into H&M and buying a jumper that's 400 quid cheaper.
Yeah,
That's in my opinion. Saka's your H&M and Aubameyang's your flannels. So I think it's a very good point, and
well,
I'm very much
forward,
like it.
Though, for both you guys, because I've just played my wild card, but both you guys looking at who you're targeting, it might be something to consider, especially because when you play your wild card, you do tend to play your bench boost, not too late afterwards.
Yeah, 26 should be the one.
Like I say, so I'm not saying there's a right or wrong way of doing it, but I just think that's really interesting what we're talking about. And then you've gone to Aubameyang, who for me, that guy should be he's doing an Ozil at the moment this season. Like, why would anyone want to spend that money and put him in his team? Don't get me wrong, he might come good and do well, but the percentages would say and suggest, and the facts would suggest that he's got more of a chance of not doing well than he has doing good. So
yeah, but a question for you, Dom, is you've got a very good squad with your new wild card. Now, if you want to get your team up, I find you're going to have a really tough bench headache for your players. And now, me personally, as a manager, I don't like having a headache. I don't mind the likes of Mitchell coming on. I like to have the money out on the pitch. I don't like having these headaches because I always call it wrong. So now, is that the way you think we need to be going by? Is the amount of players that aren't playing? Go to your subs quick. See, now for me, obviously prior to this game week, you benched them 3 players. That's quite risky in my opinion, and that doesn't sit well with me.
Well, it's very interesting to say that because you're quite right. Because a lot of players and managers, they started Watkins and Antonio, and they started Saka this game week. Now, when I built this team, it was almost like it was a case of why would I just stack money in the bank to get like the likes of your non-playing midfielder, or I took out Brewster, for example. These players, someone like Brewster, I've had in my team for quite a lot of the season. Now, the most he's ever done is come off the bench and scored 1 point. The reason I've got him is he's 4.5 mil. So just like we get attracted to FOMO, to the higher premium players, we also get attracted to the shocking players because of their value. We think, well, we have to have Brewster. He's only 4.5 mil. When in reality, I would have done so much better if I actually took the money from somewhere else, spread it a bit better, and then when your Watkins or your Antonio come off the bench or they play, they're scoring way more points than what Brewster would have done, or your premium defender you've got because you've got Brewster up front. Do you know what I mean? So
yeah, what are you going to do this game week then? Looking at your team,
looking at it now, you're right.
That's tough.
It is cool.
That is horrendous, mate. Well, I mean, Antonio, Watkins, Infill, Justin, and Digne is what I'd probably look at that as just quickly. Maybe Zaha.
But defenders are scoring, mate. Defenders are the ones scoring points at the moment.
Also, so Ollie Watkins, he's been class. West Ham don't concede goals. Away teams have been winning more than home teams. So I'm probably going to bench Watkins because I think West Ham have got a great chance of keeping a clean sheet. I want to get Antonio on the pitch. I don't know who for. Leeds have just lost bloody... I reckon
Trent.
Mate, to be honest with you, it will probably be solved by Pep because he probably won't play Cancelo or Stones again. So, or Gundogan.
Yeah, true.
Gundogan ain't playing, is he?
So Pep will solve that headache for me.
Yeah, that's an interesting one. Then is Stonesy's place gone? Then do you reckon? Then is that the end of the quick burst of the Johnny Stones? Because it was, I can't believe how he's come back from the dead in the last 10 game weeks. But yeah, we'll obviously wait and see what Pep does with that. But I think he'll, like you say, he'll make a
mate, because I think Laporte is a much better defender. I won't take anything away from Stones because I think this is the best season John Stones has had in the Premier League, especially for Man City. My worry is, on paper, Laporte and Diaz is the ideal centre-back pairing. So
that's ridiculous.
As soon as they kept a clean sheet, as soon as they get more minutes together under their belt, I don't see that changing. So I think Stones' position is in jeopardy. He's around the £5 million mark, depending on when you bought him. And if I was you, he would be one to be looking at who am I going to transfer him out for. And I would suggest Rudiger at 4.5 mil for Chelsea.
Oh, that's an interesting shout. I'm not sure. I do see the point, but I'm not sure I fully agree. I think Laporte is coming back from injury, right? He doesn't need to rush him back. He tried rushing him back before. He keeps getting these knocks. He keeps getting niggles. And actually, Stones and Diaz has proven this season unreliable. And then we've got Champions League coming back. Pep needs to win that Champions League at City. And if that's the best pairing, Laporte and Diaz, that's Champions League. Weekend, you got Stones and.
I disagree, Brad, because what you just originally said was giving more minutes to Diaz and Laporte. Now that means to me, if they need to win the champs, they're going to play Stones and Diaz in the champs, and maybe he plays Laporte in the Prem.
I don't know.
Would make more sense than putting Laporte and Diaz in the Champions League games if they've not had those minutes together.
But if they are the best centre back pairing in Pep's eyes, I don't know. It's hard to second guess Pep, but I think Laporte and Diaz is the.
Are you trying to figure out what Pep's thinking?
Yeah, easy, right?
Yeah. I'll tell you what, mate, you can have the bloke on speed dial and you still wouldn't know what you're thinking.
Yeah. We could spend all day debating the centre back pairings between.
Let me just give you a little update on the live game, Brad. You'll like this one. Did you start Ayling, by the way?
I did. Well, he's coming off my bench because I've got all the.
All right, some really good positive news for you, mate. He's just been and bagged himself a yellow card.
Oh, come on. He's going to get me probably 0 points because Leicester are going to score again.
Yeah, and one for the injury update. Ricardo Pereira has just come on because that Castani has gone off of what looks like a groin injury on the 36th minute. So
that's interesting.
So Pereira being back, I mean, he would be one to keep your eyes on as well because he's a really good FPL asset. He's like he's like an Alonso, isn't he? Sort of player on the fullback position, even though he plays on the opposite side. But yeah, okay.
Well, yeah, you've just mentioned Alonso, haven't you? So, and he's obviously scored today, and I feel like I'm back in like 2015 or 16 with Alonso, Barkley, Callum Wilson scoring. I don't know what year it is. I don't know what day of the week it is. I'm on 0 points. But yeah, no, I think it's fantastic. And I'm just looking forward to the next 3 game weeks and spicing things up, boys. But yeah.
Do you think, Dom, as a Chelsea fan, do you think Alonso plays in those less tough fixtures, right? So you've got next week, you've got Spurs. You're going to have probably Azpilicueta and Chilwell more defensively, but then you've got what, Sheffield United and Fulham or whatever it is. Does Alonso play both of those?
Well, the thing is, mate,
he's a left wing back. Alonso,
you've not seen his goal today. He's obviously he's kept a clean sheet and he scored a lovely goal, Alonso. And for me, if you're going to get dropped off of the back of that, I wouldn't be able to figure out the manager's intentions. I think that would actually upset the player more because you haven't played in ages. You've just come on with a new manager, pretty much a new team as well. He doesn't even know half these players, Alonso, right? He's just got a clean sheet and a great goal. Now, the towel will be, as a Chelsea fan, I feel the Tottenham match because that will that's giving Tuchel a few weeks in charge. It's a big game. And I'd expect that to be a really good contest. And then you've got 3 nice fixtures after that. So I would expect Alonso to keep his place, which is amazing because I thought Chilwell would have been the one, natural left footer, really good sort of fullback, would be the one to be able to predict his place and cement it in the starting lineup. But for me, I think Rudiger, if you want a way into the Chelsea defence, I think Rudiger at 4.5 mil is the best way to go.
Interesting.
That's not bad. I just can't believe I'm looking at a screen and I'm looking at the Leeds fixtures and I'm just thinking, why did I just take out Bamford for a hit? I don't know why they look appealing now. Jesus, look at that. But yeah, no, I think I find it fascinating that Alonso's actually even why we were even speaking about him, to be honest with you. But yeah, it's yeah. I mean, but no, I definitely feel my plan will be definitely freeing up some cash, getting a couple of low-owned players over in attack, maybe more likely in the midfield, and yeah, just rolling the dice for the next few games before the wild
Just
card.
to sort of like wrap it up then, I feel like we're coming to a natural end of the pod. Would you advise any managers out there, especially, as you're in a similar position, being lower down the league and trying to make that move up, is there any players
All right.
that... Sorry, I had to get that in there. It'd be
Little
me
jab there.
Is there any players that you just like to sort of to reiterate that you are going to jump on and also jump off?
Or you go, Brad.
Oh, yeah. I think I'm actually looking at jumping off probably City assets, potentially, as long as depending on how the double game week 24 comes. But if they've got a good next fixture, 2 tough ones, I'd rather take some of that cash out and then invest it into other areas. I am tempted by Cavani. United's fixtures are all right over the next couple ahead of the wild card. Also looking at Zaha, and I do kind of want Grealish. I've got Watkins already, but not having Grealish, I told Jamie earlier in the seasons it's got to be Grealish over Watkins. I know I'm a Watkins owner because of the way that my team was set up. Now I really miss having Grealish. So for me, I'm probably looking at Grealish, Zaha, Cavani, maybe even Cho. But yeah, I'm definitely thinking about getting rid of Salah or Sterling to free up some cash just for a temporary punt until game week 25.
So after all of that chat, mate, about getting the premiums, you're going to take your premiums out for lesser valued players.
I think that's
one of them. I've been swayed. You've swayed me, boys.
What about
definitely
you?
I think I'm going to be looking at taking out Sterling and Dale Stevens. Is that even his name? It's just the Burnley guy that sits in my team, does nothing. That'll give me about 15, just under 16 million, so I can do them 2 out for definitely Jack Grealish and either Maddison or Zaha. And if I'm feeling absolute ballsy, I might go Pereira if I catch their run in time. But that's what I'll be thinking. I want Martinez in goal for McCarthy. But again, I'm going to have to wait and see. What about you, Dommy? You're fresh off a wild card. That looks like it's been not timed to perfection, if I can say it like that.
I think it's been probably the best thing I've ever done. Now, I think, I don't want to make a transfer straight after using the wild card. I think it's very important not to do that. I'm hoping if Mane is injured, then I'm hoping Klopp just says it's, it's more precautionary than anything. I've got a bit of a headache next week that hopefully Pep might solve for me. But like I said, I spoke about him earlier, and it's been a sort of a theme throughout. I've just got my eyes on Hudson-Odoi, and after that Spurs game, I think Rudiger would be a good option. He's just a lovely price. If you get a 4.5 mil Chelsea defender, and they're gonna go on a little run, or the manager's gonna have that new impact from the manager, then I don't think you can ignore him. A bit like when I shouted Holding out just around Christmas time. He was 4.4 mil. Arsenal have turned a corner. You don't look at it that you're getting Rob Holding in. You look at it I'm getting a starting centre-back or defender for a top team, and they're coming into form. Don't look at anything else. And it's the same thing with Rudiger. He might not be as exciting as Reece James, Chilwell, and whatnot, but if he's going to be a starting centre-back for what should be a top 6 team with a nice run of fixtures, with a new manager impact, and also he's a great aerial threat from corners. So he might do what Zuma done, and he might get a few goals. So don't overthink it. Run all the way to the FPL bookies, take the bet, get Rudiger in your team, and then come back at me in 6 game weeks' time when he scored like -3 points. Cool.
Right, brilliant, guys. So I think we'll call that a day from here. Best of luck for the rest of the game week and game week 21. Just have a little shout out at the end for Mr. FPL Redford. You'll see him all over Twitter. He's a right nuisance.
Trying to be.
Good. So are we.
Thank you for having me, Chap.
No worries.
Thanks for having me.
Big up to Not Another FPL podcast. Hope you guys can follow us on Twitter. Hit up our YouTube channel. That's where you'll find our content. We look forward to probably having you back on a bit later in the season, Mr. Redford.
Yeah. Thank you. Hopefully I can be here too. Have a good week, guys.
Hopefully we make it to the next episode of Not Another FPL podcast. Cheerio.